set this up. Okay, we're looking good. So I'm assuming that this is all coming through loud and clear. And before I get any feedback, I'm just going to mute that. There we go. Right. So, anybody want to give me any feedback? Is that coming through loud and clear? Is that Audi coming through? Yeah. It was scary at first. How was that scary? What, my voice was scary? The music? Yep, get my pedal with my pedal. Oh, okay. So we have 4 people watching. Oh, hello. Hello to everyone that's just joined. Share it around, more the merrier. So it seems everything is working as we hoped. So I'm going to crack on. And Spectral, it was so loud and unexpected. Story of my life. Loud and unexpected. Okay, so why are we here? We are here because Roland have been working on this thing called Roland Cloud, which is an interesting concept. It is Roland instruments, Roland VSTs, plugins, if you will, and audio units, by the way. It is Roland software instruments made available to the consumer via a cloud service. Don't worry, you're not actually playing the instruments in the cloud. You download them. It's a subscription thing. It's the way everything's going nowadays, and I don't like that. But in the interests of science, I thought I'd give it a go. Mainly because Roland are giving it away free for a month as part of the early beta access. So if you just go to rolandcloud.com, you'll be able to find this stuff and sign up for the beta cloud. But don't sign up for it until I give you some very important information, which I'll give you in a little while, because you will fall foul of something that I fell foul of. Thankfully, I have another email address that I can use, as I'm sure most people do. So, yeah, I kind of made a mistake, but you don't know you're making that mistake until you've made that mistake, because they don't make it clear. But that aside, what Roland have done is today they launched Roland Cloud 4.0. So 4.0 has added a number of instruments to the offering, and they've actually rejigged things. So what you had originally were some fairly unique little instruments. There was a piano, it's called Terra. There was a piano. There was some other kind of hybrid type instrument. There were 2 sample-based instruments, oddly called 1985 and 1987. And in the description of both of those instruments, they said things along the lines of emulating the classic instrument from 1987, yet they don't refer to what that instrument is. Turns out the 1987 one was a Roland D50, and the 1984 one, I think, is a Juno. I think I can't remember now. It's gone out of my head. But they don't reference the actual synth, and I think the reason they don't do that is because they want to keep those names back. And today we found that one of those names was certainly being kept back for something, because they added 3 new instruments, 2 or 3 new instruments, I think, to the offering. And the first one, as you can see here on screen, is the Jupiter 8. The other one is the Juno 106. There you go. And they'd already released the Promars, the SH-2, the SH-101, the System 8. Now, I can't remember if that's new. I forgot to look on 3.1 yesterday. And then there's the System 100. So there is a System 1 as well, which is the small version of the System 8. But I haven't bothered downloading that because it's, as far as I'm aware, it's just a cut down version of the System 8. So I've just gone for this at the moment as a trial. So the Jupiter 8 is quite an interesting beast, because it's one of the most sought after analog polysynths ever, and a brand new hardware one will set you back thousands of pounds if it's in good condition. You're looking at least probably £3,000-4,000, if not more, for a mint condition Jupiter 8, if such a thing still exists. And it's one of the most sought after analog polysynths. And before today, you could emulate it in software. Arturia had their Jupiter 8 or JP8 module, as it was known, or Jup 8 as it's listed here in V Collection 5. So that was available, and it got a lot of stick because some people said it didn't really actually sound like a genuine Jupiter 8, and others claimed it did, and some people were sitting in the middle. It was never, but it was a damn good synth, but it wasn't maybe exactly the same, which is fair enough. And then last year, Roland released the Boutiques, which were these tiny little desktop versions of some of their classic synths. So you had, for example, the JP08, which was based on the Jupiter 8, except it only featured half the polyphony. And if you wanted the full 8-voice polyphony of the Jupiter 8 itself, you had to buy 2 JP08s and daisy chain them, which then makes things quite expensive. And these little boutique instruments weren't exactly cheap. I mean, they're £300 to £400 each, and you don't get a keyboard. You have to buy that separately, and then when you do buy that, it's a little mini key thing. So they look pretty, but how functional they are, I don't know. But I'm looking forward to getting my hands on, hopefully, and getting my hands on a JP08 for testing and reviewing purposes soon. So watch this space. So for them to release a software version of the Jupiter 8, an official Roland Jupiter 8 plugin that works as a VST3 plugin, an audio unit plugin, is pretty remarkable, and long overdue. And so here it is. Now, Roland have embraced this concept of plug outs. And just to explain what plug outs are, they are software versions of the hardware instrument that you can mess around with in your computer environment, like we are here. And then when you're happy with the sounds that you've programmed on this, you can press this little button up here called plug out. And if you have a System 1 or a System 8 keyboard attached, then all of the settings are transferred across to the hardware synth, and then you can unplug that and use all of the Jupiter 8 sounds that you've created here directly in the hardware synth, because the hardware synth is using this same ACB technology that Roland have employed for modeling all of their new synths, hardware and software. So really, the hardware that's in the System 8, for example, is using the same engines as the software plugin on the computer. So it means that you get the best of both worlds. You can have a software instrument that you can use your digital audio workstation on your desktop or your laptop, and if you've come up with some wonderful sounds, or maybe you want to take them out live and you don't want to have to rely on a computer, you can plug them out to your hardware System 8 and store them in the memory banks of that for instant recall, and they will sound exactly the same. Plus, you'll also get the benefit of having a hardware controller, so everyone's a winner. Not cheap, though. The System 8 keyboard, I believe, is about £1,300, which is a lot of money. I might be mistaken on that. I might be getting it confused with the other one that they've just released. But by the by, it's not particularly cheap, but it's handy. It's useful. Again, something I've not actually physically got my hands on. Take my word for it, eh? So the cool thing with this is that it also there's a two-way thing. So you can use the System 8 as a controller for the software, and the software works with the hardware as well. So it's a kind of a two-way street. It's very, very cool. Spectral Joe's just pointed out mint condition Jupiter 8 listed for over €6,000 on eBay. Yeah, very true. As I said, it all depends on the quality. Those that have had Kenton MIDI retrofit, I think, will sometimes sell for more because that's a desirable thing. But yeah, they're not cheap. So to have something that emulates the real thing properly from the original manufacturer is pretty big news. And you don't have to be a subscriber to the Roland Cloud to get all of this. You can buy these instruments individually. And I think without checking straight away, that's actually I can do that here, I think. You can buy them separately. I know you certainly could buy them before today separately, and they're available in the cloud. But they're about between 115 and 150 and 170, I think, for some of them. So they're kind of high-end priced plugins, but not stupidly high priced. They're certainly affordable if you want them. And I would certainly look at maybe buying one or two. I'm not entirely sure I'd want all of them. Who knows? But of course, if you do want all of them, the plan is that RolandCloud.com, which is available as an early beta at the moment, where I've got these from, will roll out with a monthly subscription of around $20. Not sure what the sterling price is on that or what the euro price is on that, but I guess we can expect 20 bucks, 20 quid, 20 euro a month. And the benefit of that is that price stays fixed and you get everything. So as they add to it and put more instruments in there, your 20 quid gets you even more value. I'm not a fan of subscription stuff, so we'll see how this goes. But I'm talking to people at Roland at the moment, and hopefully I'll be able to dig in a little bit further for a little bit longer. Anyway, enough of me waffling. Let's have a look. So I've gone in today and downloaded 7 of these, what they now call legendary plugins. They created this new category today called legendary, and they threw in the new ones, the Jupiter 8, the 106, alongside the ones that had already existed, the Promars, the SH-2, the SH-101, the System 100, and the System 8. And good evening to Miggy, who's just joined us in the chat room. So, let me just start through. So, if you look at the interface, we're looking at a Jupiter 8 interface. It's virtually, if completely identical. Obviously, there's no mod wheel or pitch bends on the left here, but you can obviously mess around with those controls. They've stripped away obviously unnecessary things. So the same classic kind of slate grey and orange interface that you expect to see on a Roland Jupiter 8. Tuning knobs up here. You got a keyboard, obviously your preset buttons, your arpeggiator buttons. You've got an effects section over here. That's not. Hang on. Would you believe my phone's ringing? Oh, they can wait because there's nobody else here. So yeah, it's all fairly familiar stuff, and then simple voice access by just dropping down, clicking on the patch window there, and you've got access to the first 4 banks of 8, and then there's subsequent another 4 banks of 8 there. Now, I have never owned an original Jupiter 8. I don't know the original patch names. I'm assuming these are originals. So if you know otherwise, then do let me know. So we'll start at the beginning as we did earlier on, and get ready because this is quite... nice big analog sound, really. Now, of course, I appreciate that YouTube is going to compress the shit out of the sounds here. But I can tell you, I've got my headphones plugged in. I've not got much in between, in the signal path, and it sounds in my headphones lovely. So we were doing a bit of this earlier. But yeah, I mean, that's a lovely, lovely, lovely thing. Anyway. Carrying on through the presets. Where are we? Sounds lovely. I don't know. I have no idea what the YouTube compression is doing to this, but. Yes, you've got to do that, haven't you? Mickey in the chat room says latency any. Oh, I like that. Well, no, not really. I am running this on a reasonably powerful iMac, 32 gig of RAM, with an i5 quad core, going through a Focusrite Scarlett 2i4, and no, basically. Fractions, milliseconds. And as you can see, now I've got all 7 of these loaded up into Reaper as my host, and currently using about 6.5% of CPU. So yeah, pretty efficient from what I can tell. How did it go? No. Actually, it probably needs to be down here, doesn't it? I suppose what I should do is kind of A/B this with the Arturia, but I haven't had a chance to kind of get matching presets or programs, so maybe that's something I'll do somewhere else. How many presets are there? There are what did we say? What's that? 8, 16, 32, 64. There's two banks of presets. and I believe that 64 presets was the standard. And I am assuming, I think these are the same as the original presets. That's Mickey's question, by the way, in the chat room. Yeah, that's right. 8 banks of 8. So Mickey says none of the third-party ones. No. However, you can import preset libraries in their .rpl format. I don't know what's available in that. To say this, I've only had this a couple of hours. Downloaded it while I was at work, and so you've got .rpl presets, and you can also have VST3 preset banks as well. But I don't know what's available. I don't know if Roland have made anything available in terms of banks, and I don't know if Ollie's done any TCS banks. I'm sure he has. I was talking to him earlier today actually, and he loves this thing, but then he's biased naturally, but no, it is. I kind of agree with him. It's rather good. That's nice. A lot of these are fairly, they're not kind of, I don't know, earth-shatteringly different. They are just classics. And like with any synth like this, you know, you really need to dig into the weeds. And start programming, because you can, you know, it's interesting. The benefit this has over the JP-08, which is a lovely little thing, is that this gives you the full performance of the Jupiter 8, rather than the slightly cut back but slightly expanded functionality of the JP-08, which only gives you 4 voices but gives you some extra things. Oh. Interesting. Okay. Okay. Interesting. so that's interesting. I've got so sorry about that. I was just messing around with the controllers on the keylab that I've got. I've got an Arturia keylab 61 that I'm playing this through, and clearly some of the parameters, some of the controls are aligned with this. I'm not entirely sure if there's a MIDI learn function. Oh, that's interesting. I'm finding things all the time. Oh, so that's good. We'll talk about that in a minute. Look at that. You see, now this is where we start getting. So, keylab 61 MIDI control output. We'll do that there as well. Okay. Okay, right. Gotcha. Right, so Mickey says, punchy all the same. It is. Very. Where are we in the patch list? We're on to the second patch, but as you can see, I'm not going to go through everything here. But yeah, I mean, there's some really cool stuff there. So 64 presets, and of course, oodles of scope for messing around and doing your own thing. So let's have a look at the options then, because this is all new to me. So it looks like we've got two different forms of layout. That's interesting. So this layout will match your System 8 hardware. That's good. I like that. Or you can have the original Jupiter 8 layout. Useful if you've got a System 8. So this is what I like. Ah, that's much better. Of course, that's now gone out of shot for you, because I was. See, I'll tell you a story. So the story I have for you. Let's see that. I see, of course. Sorry, let's just resize this. There we go. And yes. So let me make sure that you're able to see all of that. You are. Good. Right. So I had Arturia V Collection 4, which was a fine collection of instruments. Nothing really to complain about apart from one thing, and that was the GUIs, the interfaces. I've got a 27-inch iMac, so at the standard resolution, those things, for somebody like me with not very good eyesight, even with my glasses, they were difficult to read. And that was my big criticism. When I did the review of it, my biggest criticism was, for God's sake, standardize your GUIs and make them legible. Because, I've got stuff by GeForce, the Imposca, for example. I can have that fill my entire screen virtually, or certainly in width, in terms of width. And it's lovely, because then I see everything as it's intended. And lo and behold, I don't know whether Arturia listened to me or whether they listened to everyone else that was complaining about it, but they put in this new feature where you have the plugin, and let me show you, for example. Let's do that. So you now have a standard common interface across all the instruments. They all have this kind of wrapper that standardizes it, patch selection and saving and loading and all of that stuff. And the actual interface for the instrument is dropped in there and looks really nice. So I'm just waiting for that to start up, and so now. So this is the Mini, and it has this nice big clear interface. But from here, I can actually resize the window, and I can go right up to 200%, which for somebody like me with bad eyesight is fantastic. So it's nice to actually see that Roland have adopted the same, because we are, I think, living now in a world where everyone's computer screens are bigger than they used to be. But certainly the GUI designs haven't followed suit. So it's nice to see that has. Now, my first impression, that's at 150%. Legible, but what I do notice is it's a bit blurry. It's almost like it's, they've... So that's at a 175. It's not crystal clear. I mean, it's okay, but it's not sharp as it is when you have it at 100%. So that's a little disappointing that the clarity kind of goes, but nevertheless, it's a bigger interface, so that's good. So what we got here? So yeah, we can choose the different types of front panel layout. We've got the zoom, set MIDI control mapping for Jupiter 8, and then we've got some restrictions here. So you can have 2, 4, 6, and 8 voices. Why we'd want to do anything less, I don't know, but maybe for resources, I don't know. And then you've got your Roland Cloud access and your authentication. So obviously, this is the link with the cloud. When you get the instrument, you need to activate it with your username and password from your Roland Cloud account. I don't know how this works offline. That's something I've yet to try. That'll be interesting to see whether there's a time period, so whether you get, because it's a monthly thing, whether your authentication just rechecks itself every 30 days or something. Yeah. So anyway, that's interesting. Into the settings, as we saw earlier, we can set our MIDI controllers for that. And then there's a help function which opens up a PDF, which is happening in the background, and it's probably going to obscure your view just there. There we go. And we get a PDF manual, as we do with pretty much everything now. You can download that as well separately, but it comes kind of pre-installed. So we'll just get rid of that. And then there's the about, which obviously just gives you the version information. Other than that, a lot of this is very much the same as the original. Right, I know Mickey's waiting for this, so let's activate the Juno 106. And first thing I'm going to do, I'm sure this has the same options. So let's go 150% on there. There we go. And that suffers from the same thing. I mean, I can see what's what, but that's all a little bit like under soft focus. Oh well, never mind. That one up anyway. So with the Juno 106, let's have a look again at the panel. So pretty authentic. Again, pitch bend and mod wheels are omitted, but pretty much everything here is as it should be. I don't even know what condition does at the top here. What is that condition? Interesting to see. I need to research that. And then we've got the effects over here. So we've got delay. What have we got in terms of effects, we have, so let's go, we've got overdrive, we have chorus 1, distortion, chorus 2, a crusher and a phaser there, and then delay, chorus 1, chorus 2, flanger, delay and chorus, and then reverb. We have ambience, room, hall 1, hall 2, plate, and modulation. So, and then we have the tuning and the depth and levels of those. So Mickey says condition is probably sound stray. Not entirely sure what that is, but yes, it has an arpeggiator. Did I tell you? I don't know if you can see it. Now, unfortunately, my son has just nipped in the shower, which is next to my. Can you hear the kind of hissing in the background? It goes away when you turn the chorus off. Is that authentic? Is that Roland? Is that some, is that... Let's have a look at the presets here. So again, not entirely sure. I'm imagining some of these are authentic, some of them aren't. If you look here, house stab, no. There you go. Chorus hiss. So yeah, it certainly looks like they've really gone for. I knew they wanted to do rhubarb and custard. Anyway, of course, there's Hoover Sounds. Yeah. 1984. So I'm imagining that those are probably the original presets that are prefixed with 1984. Again, I'm ignorant of the that chorus hiss is it's there. It's authentic, I guess. What I'd really like to do is kind of do a direct comparison and maybe also get some input from Roland into the modelling process. Mickey says picking up the original presets. So yeah, I don't know. Are these ones that are prefixed 1984, are they not original presets? They certainly look like they're named after original presets, that quite unimaginative preset naming convention that they used to have back then. I say they used to have, we used to have. God. Brass and strings 1, strings 2, choir, organ, piano, E-piano, clav, celesta, dark, pluck, sweep, synth pad. He says extra effects on this, not on the original hardware. Yeah, that's true. I think they've done that with all the synths. They've added some effects in here, which is nice. You don't have to use them if you want true authenticity. But yeah, let me just turn my microphone down and listen to this hiss. Quite noticeable, isn't it? So, there's the Juno in all of its glory. What's next? So, should we... let's do the Promars. Just might as well go down. In order. So, again, I'm looking to see... We have all the right... Oh, that's too big. As the actress said to the bishop. There we go. And this has actually got quite a few presets in here. And some empty banks too. So this is where I start getting quite ignorant, because I've never really, I don't think I can, well, I probably heard of Promars, but I couldn't tell you exactly how one sounds and how this compares to an original. This is where I need Mr. Doty. But I'm kind of guessing that Mr. Doty probably won't be watching. Let me see. He normally pops up when he does this kind of thing. Oh, Mick Middle says, got to be honest with you, Robbie. Honest with me about what? Doesn't say what. Okay, so let's crack that away. Right. So again, same principles with the plugin. Nice effects. You've got these little VU meters at the top here. The same kind of settings. There's we all know what that is, don't we? That's definitely from Vangelis's China, isn't it? Again, don't know whether he used this, but that is very much that. So yeah, I can't compare to the original because I never heard the original. Oops. must say it does actually sound. Does sound really nice. But yeah, there you go. So deep EDM. What does that even mean? Deep EDM. Whoa, a load of bollocks. But some very nice sounds there on the Promars. SH-2. Again. So that's my son. Don't worry about him. There we go. Lots and lots and lots of bass sounds here. Lots and lots of lead sounds. Oh, that's nice. So there's a separate patch window. I didn't see that anywhere else, but that's interesting. Let's invoke that. So send and get, as you see here, might as well explain this now. So send, get, and the plug out button. This is where you require the a plug out synthesizer, whether it's a System 1 or a System 8, connected to your computer, and send sends all the settings, get gets all the settings. Now the plug out button itself, I believe, dumps everything. So I think send and get are patch specific, and I think plug out is kind of the entire thing. Might be wrong on that, but I think that's how it works. Haven't got one to try, so there you go. One thing I have noticed, and I'm just kind of glancing around, I can't see it anywhere, but one thing that I liked about some of the Arturia stuff was that a clearly monophonic instrument like the Mini Moog replication that they did could be turned into a polyphonic Mini Moog, which was obviously something the original could never do. And with the software, why can't it? So what I'm seeing here with the Promars and the SH-2, and I'm therefore assuming the SH-101 will follow suit, is that you can't, these are bang on authentic recreations without any of that kind of stuff. So yes, they might add a little effects section that wasn't on the original, maybe an arpeggiator that wasn't on the original, maybe one or two waveforms. I don't know. There might be some extra waveforms on here. I haven't had a chance to do a close comparison, but there definitely doesn't seem to be the ability to turn this into a polyphonic version of that. So not that that's a massive problem, because you'll want these synths because they were what they were, rather than that kind of other thing. But I don't know, just interesting. Of course, the one that I'm really excited about was this one, because I have always wanted an SH-101 from almost the day they came out, because I remember getting a magazine, I forget which magazine, it might have been 1-2 Testing or something similar, early 1980s, 81, 82, and seeing an advert of a young teenage boy with an SH-101 strapped around, hanging around his neck with the modulation grip attached to it. And I looked at that and I thought, I need that one. That's the one I want, because it was small and it was cool. and therefore I assumed that it was probably cheap. And I think, in the grand scheme of things, it was at the time. But also, it was cool because you could sling it over your neck, and I'd seen Vince Clarke do that on Top Up Pops. So always wanted one. And then once I started to learn a bit more about synthesizers, that was the one. I remember there was a book in the library at school, and it had an SH-101 on the front. And so I just kind of, just fell in love with this thing without actually owning one. And I never got one. And then when I found out that it was monophonic, I stupidly at the time, being quite young and stupid, thought, well, that's going to be no good because I can't play chords on it. How can I play chords on a monophonic synthesizer? What's the point of a monophonic synthesizer? Never really thinking anything more about it. And so I soon kind of lost interest, and then there are other bigger and better things around. And I applied that same logic, that very same logic. I applied to the Chord Prophecy. I was in the market for a synthesizer in the mid-90s, and I was looking around, and the Chord Prophecy had just launched. And it was selling for, I think, 1,200 quid at the time, because it was one of the first really proper virtual or physical modelling, analog modelling synths, hardware synths. And I looked at it, I thought, who the hell would spend 1,200 quid on a monophonic 37 key synthesizer? What the hell are you thinking? And then I actually played one and put my hand in my back pocket and paid the guy and bought it because it was just incredible. So I learnt my lesson. So this is nice to actually have a genuine SH-101. I have been looking at that D16 Lush Sounds, whatever it is, 101 that they did. But this is interesting. Now Mickey says in the chat, we have to excuse me yawning here. They should have put a mod grip on the graphic. Yeah, they should have done. Would have been nice. And they says, can you change the colour scheme on the 101? Yes, you can. Look at that. All the colour schemes are here. It's cool, isn't it? I noticed that on the blurb. You can change from grey to red to blue, which is very cool. But you can't put the mod grip on, which fair enough. Not a massive loss. I don't think you can. Certainly can't see an option to do that. You've got this keyboard button here that just gets rid of the keyboard bit, but you can change the colour. For me, the SH-101 is all about this, really. It's all about the bass. And that SH-101 bass is just... When I got a Roland sound canvas, and they've got an SH-101 bass on that, and it's obviously not the same, but it was kind of like that was the bass I always put on everything in the 90s was an SH-101, and to have that, I love that. I love the way it just kind of rings off. Mr. Richard Hyder is in the chat room. Welcome, sir. Welcome. And in honour of you, because you say you think it's the best colour, there you go. Oh, did that change the sound? No, it didn't change the sound. Of course it didn't. So again, preset wise, quite a fair few there. Obviously, the real SH-101 had no presets, and I wow. I mean, this is the thing with the SH-101. It's capable of some amazing sounds for what it is. Hyder says, sounds almost perfect. I would say, so I was speaking to somebody who works at Roland, and so therefore they're probably going to have some kind of bias, I'm sure. But I was speaking to them today, and he said when he heard what the ACB engine was capable of, he said you really didn't know you were listening to software. He said it just sounded like the real thing. So I'm imagining that the almost in your statement is probably because it's going through numerous amounts of compression through YouTube and so on and so forth. But to my ears, this sounds amazing. You can hear why this was like the bass synth of choice for anything in the drum and bass. Mickey says, what does that keyboard button on the left do? I showed you, mate. Listen, look, press the keyboard button and it just chops the bit of the keyboard away. Okay, that's it. It's just a space-saving device. It's because you know it's digital. That's very true. Yes, your brain kind of colours it automatically. It is digital, but my word, it sounds... Let's find an arpeggiated sound. Have we got any presets? Oh, I love me presets. I'm a lazy bastard. Let's try that one. I think that was kind of... Richard says, bad GUI design. They could have made the keyboard go completely. That's true. But I know, I'm not one of them, but I know some people do like a visual reference of keys being pressed. Bad GUI design? Yeah, it doesn't look the best, but I think when it comes to it, and it does that across the whole board with all the other instruments. So if you go to the Juno, actually this one does it have a keyboard button? I don't think it does, but no, that doesn't either. It's only some of them. Like, yeah, here's the Promars. It does the same on the Promars and the SH-2. So it's clearly a deliberate thing that's across the board. Whether that's, yeah, we can debate the merits of that, but it doesn't really take away from the fact that it's a cracking little synth. Ah, solid bass. Love that. Okay, and then we've got a couple more. Let's do the System 100. We'll keep with the old stuff. So the System 100 is kind of a semi-modular with a pinboard routing matrix, which, look at that, it's all there. So you just kind of click on it and it drops it in. That's actually quite a nice implementation of that, although it is a bit small. So let's boost up the size of that. Can you see all of that? I'm not sure if you can. No, I'm going to have to drop that down. There we go. So you should be able to get that in. Sorry, I've just kind of... I was trying to maximise the screen real estate. Right, so yeah. I wonder what somebody like Martin Ware thinks of this, because obviously this was part of the early Human League's Sonic Arsenal back in the day. Lots of presets on this one. Heck of a lot of presets. You got 6 banks full right there. So you know what, I've got this thing in my head that what I need to do. What I need to do. I need to get Mr. Doty involved, and he and I need to compare. That would be interesting, because he knows these better than I do, and yeah, unfortunately the internet would probably take some of the oomph out of the sound, and he would just go, oh, it's just nothing like the real thing. He doesn't talk like that, by the way, but hey. But it would be interesting, and I think actually, you know, if he can get a 3 months trial, that's something I should set up. Rich says, if Roland want to give me these, I will love them. Well, yeah, I'd love them too. I'm working on getting these in a legitimate way, of course. You can't really get them any other way, because you need this kind of online authorization. Okay, so patching is, I have no idea what I'm doing here, so it doesn't really make much difference. But yeah, nice to have the cables, and you can hide the cables. That's interesting. See a signal flow. That's helpful. See, now this is where software really comes into its own, because if you are a complete gimp when it comes to modulars and this kind of stuff, I'm really not that great on it. That can be kind of helpful. So there you go. And then finally, we've got the System 8, which again, I'm going to zoom to that. So this is the System 8 plug-out synthesizer. So you've got all the System 8 sounds stored in here, and you know, these are nice. Yeah, so they sound very nice. Of course, the benefit of having this, apart from being a nice plug-in to play around with, is that you've got the hardware controller that you can use, so you can again bounce the sounds backwards and forwards. Let's see if we can upset Richard again and get rid of the keyboard. Yeah, and you see it just gets rid of that empty, useless bit at the bottom, thing that my wife calls a penis. So yeah, I actually kind of like, I'm looking at, when I look at the System 8 and the way it's laid out, it's that kind of classic Roland layout, which kind of is a derivative, I guess, of the classic mode layout of, oscillator 1, oscillator 2, mixer, filter, amp, which is nice. Oh, sorry, I just invoked the manual again. So yeah, the System 8 layout's a System 8 layout, isn't it? There's no difference there. So there you go. There is the overview of all the Roland legendary synths. Tab to flip it around. Yeah. Do you know, sometimes I sit here and I hit the tab button and go, why aren't you flipping? Why aren't you flipping? But no, because I'm so into my Reason environment. But there you go. That's, early thoughts are sound great, look the part, they look authentic. My only criticism about the way they look is that when you blow them up to 150% or anything above 100%, and everything gets a little bit blurry, they're clearly not using vector style graphics here, which I think, given the price of these individually, is a bit of a cheap thing to do. But won't complain too much about that, because all in all, these are excellent recreations of the originals, and the fact that they are available as VST and audio unit plugins means that you don't have to buy into the Roland hardware paradigm, which I kind of thought that's where they were going. When I saw, when I first heard about System 8 and System 1 and the whole ARA thing, I thought, oh great, they're saying we're going to give you these plug out synths, and you can use the modeling within the hardware to recreate all these classic synths. And I thought, no, I want those classic synths, but I don't necessarily want a new piece of hardware. You don't have to. So you can either buy these individually, or you can subscribe to Roland Cloud. Now, at the moment, let me tell you about the Roland Cloud. So I was speaking to somebody about it the other day, and they said, Roland Cloud's good, but you have to be in the United States. It's only a US thing. And I thought, really? Because I've watched a video demo on YouTube from a guy in Sweden who was using it. So I wasn't 100% sure. And then I thought, oh, well, you know what he's done? He's probably used a VPN and managed to circumvent the geographic location bits and bobs. And so I went on, because then I was told by somebody else that they'd done it outside of the US. So I went on to the Roland Cloud. And let me show you this, because let me just do my screen here. So I'm sure there's a quicker way of doing it, but I can't remember. So I'm just going to so let's do this, shall we? Let's get rid of that, otherwise it's going to freak you all out. So Roland Cloud. So if you go to rolandcloud.com, you get this. And at the bottom here, you've got Roland Cloud 4.0 release. Then you've got Roland Cloud 3.1 release, which is actually now 4. Now, they've called it 3.1. Maybe that was... Yeah, okay. I don't know why they've put 3.1 and 4 on the same page. Very strange. Anyway, so you've got all of this. And you go to My Account, and if you haven't signed in, you can sign in here. And you can create a free account, and that's what I did. I created a free account because it says here, sign up now to access this with your free trial subscription. So I signed up, and I went to access my free trial subscription. It asked me for payment details and said that I needed a card that was registered in the United States. I thought, what? Oh, this is what the guy was talking about. And then I clicked on this link, and this link has a sign me up button, and if you click the sign me up button, you sign up here. So thankfully I've got another email address, and I signed up with the other email address, and I got my free month of Roland Cloud. So if you want to try this out, do so. Once you've signed in, you can go to the instruments at the top here, and they've categorized them into 5 areas. So you've got the ARA series, so you've got your System 8 and your System 1. Okay, and those are both in VST, 3 and audio unit compatible plugins. Then you've got the legendary section, and that's what we've just been looking at, is the legendary series. So Jupiter 8, SH-101, Juno 106, System 100, Promars and SH-2. Then you've got Terra, which is a piano at the moment. It's a CloudShip virtual piano. I haven't downloaded that because it's quite a large library. Same with Anthology. These are about 1-2 gigabyte libraries, and this is what I was mentioning earlier at the top of the show. One's called 1985, one's called 1987. What? So you click on here, and it describes this as one of the most iconic synthesizers in history, makes its return as an ultra-deep sampled virtual instrument. One of the most iconic synthesizers. Which one? Okay, well, let me look at the features. Ultra-deep sampled replica of its legendary counterpart. What legendary counterpart? The return of a legend. In 1987, Roland Corporation made history one of the most easily attainable yet best-sounding synthesizers to ever grace recording studios, blah, 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 blah. Doesn't say what it is. Doesn't say what it is anywhere. It's referring to this ultra-deep sample replica of it. There was never a synth called the Roland 1987. But when you look at the patch here, Fantasia, then it gives the game away. This is a sample library of a Roland D50, but nowhere in this description anywhere does it mention that it's a Roland D50. Same with Anthology 1985. Is a faithful reproduction of Roland's legendary synthesizer from 1985, recreated in a modern, easy-to-use instrument. Makes no mention of the source. So all I'm thinking is they're saving these brands up. They're saving the D50 up. Now, I've heard from someone who heard from someone else, so I don't really know how true this is, but it wouldn't surprise me. They are saving those names for plugouts that will appear here in the legendary section. So we're going to get a D50 VST. That's my theory. Finally, you've got Flavor, which is this ultra-deep sampled instrument, bite-sized bass, house, and beyond. Quite a simple-looking affair. I haven't tried it, but so that's what you get at the moment with the Cloud. Now, say it's an early access beta, and because it's an early access beta, they are allowing you a free month of testing it. So here's the advice. 1 month free. Click on that and click on the sign me up. Don't do it any other way. This way you get your free access to the Cloud for an entire month. So back to the chat room here. Shall we go? Have you tried the D50 Anthology? So no, I haven't. But as you say in there, Woody has. So there's a guy on YouTube, Woody's Piano Shack. And Woody's from England, but he lives in Sweden. Don't ask me why. Why not? But he's a bit of a keyboard freak, and he's done a whole bunch of stuff. There's loads of videos, reviews and demonstrations and repair jobs and all sorts of things. And Woody did a review of the Anthology, and he compared it to his own D50. And what he did is he played the D50 and recorded the audio direct from the outputs of the D50. And he also recorded the MIDI data. And then he played the exact same MIDI data through the Anthology 1987 plugin, which is a huge sample library essentially. And then A-B'd them next to each other, and there was virtually no difference at all, none whatsoever. So it's been sampled very well, but of course, the sample's not going to be exactly the same. So maybe the software D50 will come soon. Rich says Sand Canvas. Yeah, I've still got mine, my SC88. I was playing with it just the other day, actually. The only reason I was playing with it the other day was because I'd got some Roland MIDI files in GS format, and I wanted to hear exactly what they were sounding like. So I played them through that. And like you said, I mean, it's pretty much the same technology in a sound canvas that there was in the D50. Some would say even better. So there you go. That is Roland Cloud, which is currently available as a free beta for a month, and then it's $19.95. That is $19.95 a month after that, I guess. And that's what you currently get, is about a dozen instruments, and a couple were added today, and I'm sure more will be added. So your $19.95 will increase in value as each month goes by. So they added the three today: the System 8, the Jupiter 8, and the Juno 106. So there you go. I hope that was of some use. Just to let you know that all of these are VST3 and audio units. So if you have, if you're running Windows and your digital audio workstation doesn't support VST3 plugins, you will be screwed, basically. But I think most of them do now anyway. So there you go. Let's just go back over here. Any more questions? No, nothing there. So Roland Cloud. I never thought I'd get really back into Roland synths, but this has been a revelation, as they say. Fingers crossed, be able to play with those a bit more. But yeah, go and sign up for yourself, and I'm sure you will have lots of fun. Mickey says he's signing up. Don't blame him. So there you go. Okay. So thanks ever so much for watching. If you watch live, I hope I didn't bore you. If you're watching via YouTube itself after the fact, then again, you've had the luxury of being able to skip through most of this shit. I will hopefully be doing full-on reviews of the Roland Cloud instruments and the service as a whole. Hopefully along with a little bit of Roland hardware reviewing if that all comes off. So fingers crossed. But I think there's going to be lots of fun things coming up this year musically, and I really do want to get back into writing the reviews for my blog, at least, if not for other publications across this year, if I can, if time allows. So there you go. Thanks ever so much for watching. Take the greatest of care, and I will see